Hey guys, it's James Ballard from wildwings.co.uk, and today we're going to be having a look at taking off and the landing. So, you've just got your plane all set up, and you've done all the pre-flight safety checks that I've put in my pre-flight safety check tutorial. So if you haven't seen that yet, it's the previous tutorial, go and check that out. So you've got your plane all set up and you've taken it out, and first thing you do is you're going to shout to everybody taking out or going out, however you want to say it in your club, so everybody at the flying site knows that you're taking your plane out into an active flying area. So then you put your plane down and return to a safe distance. At this point we're going to want to shout taking off. And this lets everybody know that you're about to take off and they need to clear the sky for you, or just make sure that no one's having problems and going to land. So really communication, remember communication is key to safety at flying clubs. So do let everybody know exactly what you're doing. So having said that, the next step is to increase your power. So a couple of things to look out for when you're taking off. First of all is we want the tail of the plane to remain down. There's a back wheel, and you want the back wheel to be on the ground when you're taking off. You don't want the whole tail to lift off and it to nosedive. So what we're going to do is, while we're increasing the power, we're actually going to hold on some up elevator. Now, you don't want to hold full up elevator on the whole time, or when it gets enough speed to eventually take off, which will take longer because you're slowing it down, it will sort of flip up and it won't be very controlled. So you only want enough up elevator on to keep the tail down on the ground. Okay, so it's only a little bit, you don't need very much at all. And then as you start to get enough speed, you can slowly increase the up elevator to bring it into a nice controlled takeoff. So the other thing that we're going to be looking out for is the fact the plane is going to start turning on the ground. Because of the torque of the motor, or the engine, it's actually going to want to steer itself to the left when you take off. So as you increase the power, it will steer itself to the left, like that. The way you correct this is to put on some right rudder. So as you're increasing the power, keep a bit of up elevator to keep the tail down, and then have a bit of right rudder also on. Now you don't want to start with too much right rudder, or you're going to steer the plane off to the right to begin with. So it'll take a while for it to turn itself left, but do be aware that will happen. Some planes really go left quite sharp, some planes don't. So just be aware that as you slowly increase the power, you're also going to want to put on a little bit of right rudder to start with, see what it does. If it goes too far to the right, take the right rudder off and put a little bit of left on if you need to overcorrect it. Otherwise, wait until it starts to turn, and then you know to put some right rudder on to keep it in a straight line, full power, start to increase your up elevator, and come up into a nice controlled takeoff. So those are things to look out for in takeoff, and do remember to shout taking off before you take off. Okay, that's really important. So the next stage then is the landing. So the first thing we want to do before landing is a nice controlled circuit. So you're going to want to watch my circuit tutorial for how to do your circuit. But the reason we want to do a nice controlled circuit is because we don't want to land on the spot spontaneously, just sort of shoot down and land. That's not controlled or safe. Everybody needs to know what we're doing, and we need to be in control ourselves. Okay, so we're going to do a nice controlled circuit. We're going to be nice and high, and we're going to go round, and we're going to remember that when we land, we're going to be landing into wind. This is so we can reduce our speed right down, and the wind will give us enough lift to gently bring our model in. If you're landing downwind, it's going to go very fast and it's going to be dropping very quickly, so it's going to be difficult. So generally speaking, you land into wind, unless of course you don't have a choice, but we'll go through dead sticks as well in a bit. So we're going to be going into wind with the landing. So with our landing circuit, we want to come round, so we start into wind, do one circuit, coming back into wind again, and at the end of this circuit, we can reduce the power into our landing. So the first thing we're going to do when we're doing our circuit is we're going to shout out to everybody again and let them know we're doing a landing circuit. We plan to land, and therefore we need to know if anyone else is already in the landing area, or if anyone's doing low down aerobatics, they need to move out the way. So you shout landing circuit, let everybody know what you're doing, then go for a nice controlled circuit, and you want to make it quite a wide circuit so you've got plenty of space. So come round to the back of your landing area. Now, as you're coming around at this point, and here we're going down for our landing, so before we turn into this, this is when we're going to start to really reduce our power. So if we're just cruising on our circuit, we might be cruising at about half power. Bearing in mind we're going downwind, at this point, so we don't need too much power anyway. So half power or less. And as we start to turn in, this is when we reduce our power more, maybe quarter power now. It really depends on how long your run-up is for your landing. Bear in mind you're going into wind, so you can reduce the power and it still should stay up quite easily, okay? So, turn around back into wind, and as we do so, we reduce the power to about quarter power. And we're going to start to come in, so we can start to add a bit of down elevator to drop it, though it will start to drop by itself, so you don't want to add too much down elevator. If it starts to drop by itself, then that's fine, let it drop by itself, and only use the up elevator to keep it coming in nice. Now you don't want to come in like a Harrier, because what will happen is at the end, it will suddenly drop the nose, and that'll crash. So you want to try and keep it as level as possible as you're coming in. So you want to reduce the power right down. Now as you're coming in for your landing, come right back to idle, so that's no power. Gently bring it in, make sure these wings are level. Actually, key thing I've forgotten before doing that, we've said landing circuit, but we haven't actually shouted landing. So at this point, as we're coming round for our landing, or even halfway in our circuit, we need to shout out again to everybody that we're landing. So you just shout landing, and that lets everybody know. So do remember to shout these things out, because it is helpful for everyone else to know exactly what you're doing. So at this point, we shout landing. Then we come around, reduce your power right down, into wind, keep those wings level, and really just bring it down gently, try and keep the whole plane level, and when you come down towards the ground, you can lift the front up a little bit if you like. It all depends on which plane you have, how big your wheels are, how bouncy they can be, but generally speaking you want to keep the plane level, and you want to be coming in with enough pace so that you're rolling into the landing. You don't want to come down here and then just drop. So if this is the case, add a bit more power on, so you might quarter power rather than idle, because you want enough pace to land and be rolling forward at the same time, but not so much that you can't get it down or that it'll overshoot the landing strip. So that's the theory of the takeoff and the landing. What happens if your engine cuts out mid-flight or your battery runs out if you're using electric flight? So this is called a dead stick, and what this means is you have no power. So this can be quite worrying, so it's always good to practice this. First of all, fly high up anyway. If you're practicing these moves for the first time, a lot of these tutorials are quite difficult for the first time to actually get the stick moves right, so you probably will end up flying out of it at a weird angle and having to control the plane again. So it's always best to learn these things high up. So you should be high up anyway, and then if your power cuts out, key things to think about. The first thing is this shouting out business. You want everybody to know that you've got no power. You're going to be coming in for a landing straight away. So you shout dead stick. So you're coming down for your dead stick, and you're going to want to land into wind if you can, okay? So if you've got time for a circuit, it really depends what model you've got and how well it glides. If you've got time for a circuit and you're high enough up, bring it into the controlled circuit so that at the end of the circuit you can start to come down and come into a controlled landing. If you don't have enough time for a nice controlled circuit, then you want to turn quite quickly. Now remember, when you turn downwind, you're going to be going quite quick. So turn downwind, you can get enough speed to bring it round to the edge of your flying site, and as you turn into wind now, it will slow right down, but also not drop anymore. Well, not too quickly. I mean, it will drop when it's downwind, it will go really quick and drop, then you go into wind, and it will stop going so quick, stop dropping, and you can start to glide it in. So this will take a bit of practice, and you do need to practice the dead sticks. You need to know exactly what happens when your engine cuts out and how you're going to land. So just to recap, remember, shout dead stick, let everybody know what's going on. Find a nice place to do a sharp turn if you have to, going downwind to pick up speed, then into wind to come in for your landing. And if you've got the nice height, then you can go into your nice controlled circuit and then land from there. So let's have a look at some footage now. So after you've shouted taking off, increase the power, a little bit of up elevator. Now add in the right rudder, you can see the plane starting to swerve to the left. More power, up elevator, and you're away. Remember to tell people that you're coming around for a landing circuit. Shout, preparing for a landing. And when you're finally ready to land, shout, landing. Reduce the power to about half and come in for a slow descent. Slowly reduce the power all the way down to idle. Remember to keep the wings level by using the ailerons. Use the up elevator slowly and gently in order to try and keep the plane into a nice controlled descent. Blip the throttle towards the end and pull full up elevator when you land. In the case of a dead stick, let everybody know as soon as you know the engine's cut. Shout, "Dead stick!" If possible, you do still want to land into wind. If you're too far away from where you usually land, try and buy a bit of time in the air by turning left and right a few times. Then turn back into wind and slowly descend to the ground. Hopefully you'll have successfully landed without damaging the plane. I'm sure everyone will shout and congratulate you.